Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News program, broadcast to you live from the capital Algiers. To the headlines. 12 martyrs and dozens wounded in Zionist massacre at Jabalia camp. 77 martyrs in 3 massacres by the occupation in just 24 hours. Algeria rejects any foreign military presence, reiterating that only UN peacekeeping forces should be present in Syria's buffer zone, and Erdogan reaffirms Turkey's rejection of the Zionist aggression and occupation of Syrian land. Spanish media expose espionage scandal involving Makhzen intelligence and French lobbies. Moroccan parties accuse Akhnouch government of exploiting power for personal gain. In Sudan, 25 were killed in an attack on village south of El Fasher, and the UN urges intensified relief efforts. The details are coming up shortly after the break. Welcome back to the program. The Gaza Strip Civil Defense reported that 12 Palestinians, including many children, were killed in occupation bombing targeting a house in Jabalia Nazla, northern Gaza Strip. Local sources confirmed that the attack struck a house near the Radwan station belonging to the Khalla family, resulting in numerous injuries. 21 Palestinians, including children and family members, have been martyred since dawn Friday due to the ongoing Zionist airstrikes on Gaza. Medical sources reported a rise in toll and numerous injuries as raids continue across the Strip. "77 Palestinians were killed and 174 others were injured in 3 massacres carried out by the Zionist forces in Gaza over the past 24 hours, according to the Gaza's Ministry of Health. Since October 7, 2023, 45,206 martyrs and 107,512 injured have been recorded, with thousands still buried under rubble in an incomplete toll. Palestinian media report that the Zionist forces demolished residential buildings near Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, north of Gaza Strip. Local sources confirm a drone strike on the hospital, followed by artillery fire targeting its gate. The Qassam Brigade's Hamas military wing reported conducting complex operation in Jabalia camp, northern Gaza Strip. A Hamas fighter eliminated a Zionist sniper and its assistant at close range. The fighter, then disguised himself in occupation forces uniform, approached a group of 6 soldiers and detonated an explosive belt, causing deaths and injuries among them. The Al-Qassam Brigades released footage showing what they say is the targeting of Al-Majin military site east of Khan Younis in southern Gaza Strip using a Zawari suicide drone.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم في سبيلك وابتغاء مرضاتك ونصرة لدينك وإعلاء رايتك اللهم آمين اللهم سدد اللهم سدد.
Similarly, the Quds Brigades announced the bombing of Zionist troops and vehicles at the Netzarim axis with rockets and mortar shells and hit a command center with a Badr missile. They also reported downing of reconnaissance drone over Gaza City. Meanwhile, the martyr Omar Qasem forces broadcast footage of what they say is the targeting of the occupation supply line north of Netzarim with mortar shells. In southern Gaza Strip, medical sources reported that an infant died early Friday from the cold in a tent in Khan Yunis, Mawasi area. Humanitarian conditions for 2 million displaced people worsen as low-pressure systems bring cold and rain, flooding many fragile tents and leaving families without the means to keep warm. Hamas called for international pressure to stop the genocidal war on Gaza and strengthen solidarity with the Palestinians to secure their legitimate rights. On International Human Solidarity Day, the group urged global and regional efforts to criminalize the Zionist aggression, prosecute its leaders, and intensify solidarity activities worldwide to end the occupation's attacks on Gaza and other Palestinian territories.
We called for putting pressure by all means on the Zionist occupation to stop its aggression and crimes of genocide, ethnic cleansing, and forced displacement that it has been committing against our Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip for 15 months. We called for the continuation and escalation of all forms of solidarity activities with our people and their just cause in the capital, cities, and squares of the world, and to strengthen human solidarity with our people in the Gaza Strip, who are being subjected to the most heinous crimes and horrific massacres until the Zionist aggression stops.
The UN General Assembly approved a resolution on Thursday seeking the International Court of Justice opinion on the occupation's duty to facilitate international aid to Palestinians. The resolution, drafted by Norway, passed with 137 votes in favor, 12 against, including the US and the Zionist entity, and 22 abstentions.
Of the draft resolution, please signify. Those against.
Massive demonstrations took place across Irish streets in solidarity with the Palestinians and against the war on Gaza. Protesters waving Palestinian and Irish flags condemned the genocide in the Strip and called for an end to the ongoing aggression targeting civilians, most of whom are women and children. At dawn on Friday, settlers set fire to parts of a new mosque in Marda, north of Salfit in the occupied West Bank. Local sources say that the attackers tried to storm the mosque before setting it on fire. Settler violence has escalated since the start of the Zionist war on Gaza, including armed attacks, land vandalism, and the destruction of Palestinian property in the West Bank and Al-Quds. The Palestinian Minister of Foreign Affairs condemned the burning of the mosque in Marda, calling it a racist act and a result of the incitement campaigns by the extreme right against Palestinians. The ministry described the attack as part of the ongoing series of violations and crimes committed by the settlers. Harun Nasser al-Din, head of Hamas Al-Quds Affairs Office, called for a large presence at Al-Aqsa Mosque to resist attacks by the Zionist occupation and its settlers. In a statement on Friday, he described the occupation's military measures against worshippers as a dangerous aggression and urged the need to defy these restrictions in defense of the land and Islamic sanctities.
The attack is a blatant act of racism and a direct result of the extensive incitement campaigns against our people carried out by the leader of the ruling far right. It is part of a long series of violations and crimes committed by armed and organized settler militias, officially supported by the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. We call on the UN Security Council and the UN Secretary General to swiftly activate the international protection system for our people, immediately halt the ongoing extermination war, and take binding measures to implement international resolutions calling for an end to the occupation of Palestinian land.
The Houthi Ansarullah group in Yemen, in cooperation with the Islamic resistance in Iraq, announced a successful military operation targeting vital Zionist occupation sites in southern Palestine using drones. The operation specifically targeted a military site in the occupied Jaffa. The group warned that any Israeli-American escalation against Yemen would be met with a similar response.
The Yemeni Armed Forces drone unit hit a military target of the Israeli enemy in the occupied area of Jaffa. The operation successfully achieved its goal by the grace of Allah. The Yemeni Armed Forces, as previously stated, reaffirmed their readiness for a prolonged war against this enemy as a jihad for the sake of Allah and in support of the Mujahideen in Gaza and to defend our dear Yemen. They will not cease until the aggression against Gaza stops and the siege is lifted.
Algeria has reiterated that no military forces, equipment or personnel should be present in the buffer zone in Syria except the forces of the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force. Speaking at the UN Security Council meeting devoted to the situation in Syria, Algeria's permanent representative to the UN, Ammar Ben Jama, held the renewal of the mandate of the UNDOF through a unanimous vote, stressing that the Israeli presence in that buffer zone is unacceptable.
I would like to express has enabled us to unanimously renew the resolution underscores that, and I quote, there should be no military forces, military equipment, or personnel in the area of separation other than those of end of quote. Therefore, the actual presence of Israeli forces in the area is illegal and constitutes a flagrant violation of the 1974 disengagement agreement and relevant Security Council resolutions.
Mr. Ammar Ben Jama reiterates on the occasion Algeria's full support for the UNDOF and its peacekeepers, whose safety and security must be ensured by all the parties.
Algeria reaffirms its steadfast position that the Golan Heights is an occupied Syrian territory. Furthermore, Algeria reiterates its full support of UNDOF and for its peacekeepers, whose safety and security must be ensured by all parties.
Similarly, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan condemned Israel's occupation of Syrian territory, calling it unacceptable. In a statement on Friday, he pledged that Turkey would continue to pressure the occupation to comply with international law, while also rejecting any threats along Turkey's southern borders. In a related matter, German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock, during an official visit to Ankara on Friday, emphasized that destabilizing Syria affects the entire region. She urged Turkey to support Syria's security and create conditions for the safe return of refugees. Baerbock also stressed that Syria should not become a tool for foreign powers or extremists and highlighted the need for stability and security to rebuild the country and prevent persecution of Syrians. Spanish media reported that a network of 4 Moroccan intelligence agents were involved in a network espionage against Spain, orchestrated by the Makhzen. The operation targeted sensitive military information related to the Canary Islands and Melilla, both under Spanish sovereignty. Hussein Burkan reports now.
Following the Pegasus espionage scandal, where Moroccan intelligence targeted European parliamentarians, media figures, and politicians. A new chapter in Morocco's espionage activities has emerged. According to Spain's prominent newspaper, El Periódico, a network of 4 spies linked to Moroccan intelligence, led by Yassine Mansouri, central to Pegasus scandal, stole sensitive military information concerning the Canary Islands and Melilla before fleeing. This latest espionage incident has caused political upheaval within Spain's intelligence services and heightened concerns over a previously unexpected accomplice, France. European intelligence sources allege that French intelligence may have provided logistical and informational support to Morocco in these operations. While France was once a victim of the infamous Morocco Gate scandal, it now appears to be a compliant partner in Morocco's espionage ventures. Reports also suggest that Moroccan operations have led to the leakage of Spanish defense data linked to NATO, allegedly aiming to weaken Madrid's defensive capabilities in the region. This ongoing saga of espionage no longer focuses solely on cyber incursions like Pegasus, but extends to direct infiltration targeting key strategic areas in Spain. The broader implications are alarming, with Morocco using espionage and blackmail not only against its political opponents, but also to pressure Spain into adopting favorable positions that support its expansionist agenda. These acts threaten regional stability and raise urgent questions about the limits of Morocco's intelligence operations and the complicity of external actors.
Mohamed Al-Ghalousi, head of the Moroccan Association for the Protection of Public Money, criticized the government of Aziz Akhnouch for mixing power with money following the awarding of desalination plant project in Casablanca to one of Akhnouch's companies. In a social media post on Friday, Al-Ghalousi said that this deal undermines fairness in public contracts. He added that in a state of law and justice, the Prime Minister would not be able to use his position for personal gain.
Prime Minister Akhnouch defends his company's rights to participate and secure the mentioned contract within the walls of Parliament, arguing that nothing prohibits him from doing so. However, true equality cannot be achieved when the individual in question is both the head of the administration and its leader.
Sahrawi Ambassador Lamin Abba Ali urged greater support for African institutions for the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination during a meeting with the African Union Commissioner Bankola Doy. He highlighted the EU's role in defending international law and promoting peaceful resolutions to conflicts. Algerian Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research Kamal Bedari delivered a message to Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud from President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune. The Somali president praised the strong ties between Algeria and Somalia, expressing appreciation for Algeria's role in Africa and its support of Somali students to pursue their studies at Algerian universities. Algerian Minister of Interior Brahim Murad highlighted Algeria's commitment to joint African efforts during the 5th session of the African Union Specialized Technical Committee in Tunisia. He emphasized Algeria's active participation in African Union mechanisms and its readiness to share expertise in civil service, local authorities, and urban development.
Algeria is committed through all its policies to joint African efforts. It consistently contributes with active participation in various African Union mechanisms and other frameworks of cooperation. Algeria stands ready to share its expertise across diverse fields and remains steadfast in supporting the success of all initiatives and events organized by the African Union and its affiliated structures for the benefit of the peoples of the African continent.
Algerian Interior Minister Brahim Murad emphasized that local development is a priority for Algeria, which has implemented significant reforms in the local authority sector since President Tebboun's election.
Recognizing the priority of local development issues, Algeria has undertaken a comprehensive reform program for local communities since the election of Abdelmajid Tebboune as president. These reforms have focused on achieving balanced development, particularly in underserved areas, through complementary development programs and the creation of new provinces to bring decision-making closer to citizens. Algeria is advancing with an approach aimed at transforming local communities into economic units by encouraging investments that generate wealth and create jobs.
Moving on to Libya now, Libyan Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dbeibah stated that Libya refuses to be a battleground for international conflicts. In a speech at the Government Communication Forum, he rejected the presence of foreign forces in Libya without permission, emphasizing the Libyan people's desire for stability and progress toward building a developed state.
لا يمكن أن نرضى أن تكون ليبيا ساحة.
We will never accept that Libya becomes a field where interests of all types of countries cross. We're kind people and we want to construct our country. We don't want other countries to come with their army material to stay in our country. We resisted colonialism before and we will resist it every time, like our ancestor Omar Mukhtar and our people. We will resist and we will win, God willing.
Meanwhile, Libyan Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dbeibah reiterated his call for creating the necessary conditions to hold elections, allowing the Libyan people to choose their leaders freely.
All Libyans have the right to be involved in the politics of the country, and everyone should look at himself as a president or prime minister or even head of parliament. The political process is not exclusive to anyone or party. We want fair election. All Libyans are the same, but we don't accept that anyone makes his own law. If anyone wants to make a new parliament and a new government, we accept that, even if they make new conditions.
In Sudan, local media reported that at least 25 people were killed on Friday in an attack by the Rapid Support Forces on the village of Abu Zriga near the Zamzam camp for displaced people in North Darfur. The victims included women and children. Residents have appealed to the international community to intervene and protect civilians from such violations. Idim Musorno, director of the operations of the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, confirmed that over 12 million people, a quarter of Sudan's population, have been displaced since April of last year. Speaking at a UN Security Council session, she highlighted the limited humanitarian aid reaching those in need and called for pressure to open all relief routes and ensure compliance with the international humanitarian law by the conflict parties.
In Port Sudan area, with over 12 million people, around 1/4 of the population, displaced since last April. 3.2 million people have sought safety in already fragile areas in neighboring countries. Meanwhile, the volume of humanitarian aid reaching people in need remains a fraction of what is required. Mr. President, this is a crisis of staggering scale and cruelty, one that demands sustained and urgent attention. This is why Under-Secretary General Fletcher visited Sudan and Chad during his first trip as Emergency Relief Coordinator. He held intensive discussions with the Sudanese authorities on the need to scale up the humanitarian response, protect civilians throughout hostilities, and end sexual violence as a tool of war.
Moving on to Russia-Ukraine file now, the Russian Defense Ministry reported on Friday that Russian air defense systems shot down 36 Ukrainian drones over Russian territory the previous night. According to the statement, 16 drones were destroyed over Krasnodar, 14 over the Black Sea, 5 over Bryansk, and 1 over Belgorod. Kiev was rocked by powerful explosions on Friday after ballistic missiles were launched towards the city. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko confirmed that the explosions were caused by air defense systems, fires, and material damage. Ukrainian sources reported hearing massive blasts throughout the city, coinciding with airstrikes across the country, targeting energy facilities and other regions. And that's the end of our news program for tonight, dear viewers. For more updates or to catch up on any stories you may have missed, be sure to visit our social media platforms. From me and the rest of the team of All 24 News, thank you for tuning in. Good night.